Welcome back to the Workplaces YouTube channel. Joining me today is Jen. She is one of the business builders at Workplaces. And today we're going to have a discussion surrounding work-life balance. So Jen, get us started. Let's talk about the myths of work-life balance.
Yeah, work-life balance. Well, balance implies equal. And just straight up, it's a fallacy. When you look at, logically speaking, the amount of time that we sleep is 7 to 9 hours. I mean, not entrepreneurs realistically, but 7 to 8 hours.
4 to 6.
4 to 6 is more accurate. And then you work 8 to 10 plus hours a day. So right there, automatically, balance can't happen. It's just physically, the math doesn't math.
Right.
Right? So when we try as entrepreneurs to actually get into what balance is, or I need balance, or oh my gosh, I'm so stressed, how do I get there? And I need to figure out balance in my life, and my wife is yelling at me, or my husband's yelling at me, or my kids are yelling at me, and I can't get balance. I need balance. Gosh, help me get balance. No. It's actually not balance you're looking for. What you need is alignment and intention and systems in a business that's actually functioning.
Yeah, all of the above are important.
Right.
Let's dig into this a little bit. So you ran an electrical company with your husband, right? And what was the biggest lie that you believed about work-life balance when you were doing that?
That it was possible.
Right?
Yeah. Work-life balance is not possible. Also believed, like, if we just throw all the money at it, it'll be functional and we'll get there eventually, which doesn't actually work. You need to be really strategic about where you throw your money when you're starting a business. And it needs to have outcomes. You need to actually get somewhere with it. I also thought, as starting a business, like, eventually I'm going to make more money than I did as an employee, and eventually it'll all be worth it.
Yeah.
The majority of the time that we ran an electrical company, our journeymans made more than us. The majority of, right?
That happens.
It tracks.
Yeah, it tracks for sure.
So there's that side of things. There's also like if something comes up, we'll just work it out between us. Yeah, that didn't work either, because then you're running a mile a minute. You're in survival mode. Nothing actually works. So that was a lie, that it was like, yeah. Well, we have the skills for this. We can do this. And we've made it through so many other things before. So of course we can make it through this. Nope, that was a lie. So the other lie is that the sacrifices would be worth it. I don't know that they all were. Made a lot of sacrifices, especially early in the business. And because we didn't have a plan and a goal and not necessarily aligned in things, I can look back and go, they weren't all worth it. And so we tell ourselves that to make it functional and like a reason to keep the business going and doing all those things. But when I look back realistically, my kids were little. Missed a lot of things I now regret.
No, I think you really nailed it when you talked about being intentional about your time and talking about the compromises that you have to make in order to lead a better life. It's not necessarily a balanced life, but it's prioritizing the important, saying no to the good so you can grab onto the great.
Exactly.
Right? So when you talk to business owners who say, I need more balance, what are they really saying?
Usually it has nothing to do with balance.
Okay.
Usually people actually don't know what the underlying needs are and what's underneath it. And that's a level of emotional intelligence that most of our culture doesn't have. So we don't sit down and go, like, what is the need actually? In a completely non-business sense, I was speaking with a gentleman who really understood this about himself and understood how to dig down into the needs underneath. And he saw a pretty woman and that sparked something in him. And he went home and went to his wife and said, I think I need to go fishing. I need some adventure. So instead of seeing a pretty woman and being revived, that without understanding this could have ended up in cheating or infidelity or whatever, he understood it and went, I actually am not interested in the woman. I'm interested in the adventure and the chase and that side of things. So he knew what was like arising in him to go home and go, this is what I need filled, right? So that's like a non-business example. But how that shows up in business is I need balance. Well, do you actually need sleep? Is sleep actually your body's like fighting with you? And then maybe it's a Saturday morning with earplugs and eye mask and your wife takes the kids out early. I don't know. So sleep could be an underlying need. Then balance could also be like, I'm worried all the time. So if I'm worried all the time, well, what's not working? Do I need to help with like the mental health side of things? And am I stressed about things I don't actually need to be stressed about? Have I had the conversations with my business partner? Could be another gentleman or somebody in your business that's in leadership with you. Do I need to have a conversation with them? Maybe I'm going nuts over something that isn't actually applicable. Maybe it's not actually an issue, but I'm just stressing. So there's like anxiety and mental health that can come with this too. Or there could be a need that's like, I need a system because that would give me this time back. Well, what do I need to do to employ that system in the business to get it functioning and working so that I can get out of this crunch? So when I say I need balance, you're feeling something and you're feeling a need, but most people don't actually sit down to go, what is underneath it that's actually the problem?
No, Jen, I think you brought up a lot of very good points. And one of them I wanted to zero in on is mental health. What are some of the statistics for entrepreneurs regarding mental health?
Trevor, that's a fantastic question. Most people don't know the stats. So I'm going to actually read a few because the research on mental health in entrepreneurs is ridiculous. So 72% of entrepreneurs are directly or indirectly affected by mental health issues compared to 48%. It's almost half.
Yikes.
And that's crazy to me. When you dig deeper, 30% experience depression, 29% ADHD, substance use at 12%, and bipolar at 11%, which is all higher than the standard general population. Another stat that hit me, 73% of entrepreneurs say they spend less time with friends, 60% less time with their spouse, 58% less time with their children, and 75% feel pressure from other people's expectations. And the craziest part is 54% still consider discussions around mental health to be taboo.
That tracks.
Right? So we have all of these issues that everybody's experiencing and nobody is talking about. So the mental health side of being a business owner and being an entrepreneur is isolating. It's lonely. There's not much community. People don't know who to talk to and when. They don't have an avenue to go to when they're stressed out. They don't want to burden their spouse. They don't have another leader they can speak to because everybody's worried about, well, if I share something over here, will my business grow? And like opening up about the vulnerable things that are going on. You want to look like you have it together when you have a business because then people will use you, right? And utilize your service or buy your stuff. But if you're vulnerable about, well, things are actually really crappy right now and our manufacturing is done and I can't hire a leader for the life of me, all of those things impact your ability to sell what you're doing, which brings another level of anxiety. So we're isolated, we're alone, we don't have avenues to get the support that we need.
Yeah, that tracks completely with, I work with a lot of business owners as well, like yourself. And one of the tricks to overcoming that is having a good business coach on your side, right? So you guys are business builders and you work with a lot of people in construction trades and manufacturing, right? So maybe talk a little bit about, how you are able to help people find not the balance, but what they're actually seeking when they say, oh, I need more balance or I'm crazy, things are going crazy right now. How do I fix this, right?
As a business builder, I'm looking for the ways that the stage of business they're at are impacting them. So one of the most interesting things that I learned when I partnered with Bruce is the 7 stages of enterprise growth. He taught this to us as clients. So I learned this from him back then. And every single business, it's well researched. It has a lot of stats behind it. But every single business with the complexity of people in it, so under 10 employees or people in the business, have the same non-negotiable rules, They have the same stressors and they have the same goals. And so at a startup through till 10 employees, you're going to hit the exact same thing regardless of what industry you're in, whether it's a product or a service, it doesn't matter because the complexity of the business is the same. So once I realized that what I'm going through, every single other business goes through up to 10 employees, and then there's a breaking point and you end up in different non-negotiables and different things that you need to as your business grows. So once I understood what the non-negotiables were, I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I knew this sooner. Mm-hmm. Because then it becomes not this huge unknown enigma of foggy, I don't know-ness. It goes to, oh, these are the 4 things that I have to do to be successful before I can scale up. If I don't answer those 4 things, it's not going to happen. Or it'll happen and it'll be awful.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So 2 things I pulled from that is number 1, you're not special.
Yep.
Number 2, you're not alone.
Yes.
So those are 2 good takeaways we can take from that bit of information there.
And also there's a plan, right? Like you're not special, you're not alone. Other people experience this. So that's nice to know, but it also is like, this is exactly what you need to do when in order to have progress. So you can get out of the crunch that you're in. So there is a way out.
Now let's talk about when people are really in it, right? Sometimes you talk about the business systems will suck the life right out of you, right? So maybe explain a little bit more about that because I get it, but let's for our audience and people who are getting familiarized with business builders, let's talk about that.
So when a system isn't working well, it will literally pull from every area of your life. So it'll pull from your marriage, it'll pull from your kids, your time, your resources. You'll throw money at it. You won't know what to do. So you'll do everything you possibly can. So it's just like when a body is bleeding out, it'll pull all of the resources in to keep your organs alive. So it literally pulls from other areas that might be uncomfortable or like not life-sustaining in order to keep the life-sustaining part alive. So it sucks from other areas. Business is no different. Business does the exact same thing. So if the system isn't working or you're bleeding out over here, it's gonna pull from other areas in order to keep you alive. So most people in entrepreneurial stress, burnout, anxiety, worry are feeling that because it's pulling from other areas. And so when you're not balanced and you're not in that system well, and you haven't answered your non-negotiable rules for the stage of business that you're at, it's going to be pulling from other areas in order to sustain itself. And the only way out of that is to figure out what those non-negotiable rules are, and we can help. Every stage of business has them, all the way up to 500 employees. Every stage of business has their non-negotiable rules. So once you know that, it's much easier to make a plan of like, okay, well, how am I going to answer that? What do I need to put in place so that that happens, so that the business itself becomes sustainable and I can stop the bleeding?
Hey, Jen, let's go back to talking about the 3 pillars we briefly mentioned earlier, okay? So talking about that, if balance isn't the goal, then really what is the goal? And I think we had alignment, intentionality, and sustainability.
Yep.
Okay. So let's approach alignment. What does it actually look like for entrepreneurial couples or business partners?
Yeah. So importantly, it's not just your business partner who works in your business. It's also your spouse at home, right? Alignment is important because if 2 business partners, one is trying to hit a work-life balance, I even use the word balance. If they're trying to hit a lifestyle that they desire with their family, that might not be a revenue goal. And if the other business partner is like, I want to hit a $2 million revenue goal, regardless of what that takes, you're going to be pulling in opposite directions in your business and you're going to want different things, and that's going to execute differently. So it's really important that you have alignment with your business partner. It's also important that you have those alignment goals with your spouse, because if you have young kids and Your spouse is like, well, I thought we started this business so that you could be at soccer games and so you could participate in school plays and you could go on the field trips. Well, then that's a really different goal. And financially, that might be different. So the outcome in the business for the life that you want at home, if your spouse isn't on board for a sprint in the business to hit a revenue push, then they're going to be resentful at home. They're not going to be supportive and like be your cheerleader if they're not on board with the same goal. So alignment in every sense of the term, in every direction for who's impacted by the business is super important.
So making the decisions that will bring that alignment is really important, and being able to ask the right questions of yourself, right?
Yeah. Which starts out with also, what do I need, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about earlier, like, what do you need? Is it sleep? Is it this? But also, what do I need for my life? Where am I going? What do I need is underneath all of that to help my spouse, my business partner determine how we get aligned also comes from our needs.
Okay, Jen, we briefly touched on, saying no is actually saying yes. So can you give me some concrete examples of that?
Yeah. So that's all about the being intentional and making decisions to align with those goals. So we understand the alignment. We now have the same goal. Everybody's on the same page. Now we're going to set an intention of how we're going to get there. How we get there and what we choose to put our attention on matters greatly, because if it's not going to get you to your goal, you shouldn't be saying yes to it. So if my goal is to be a peaceful, calm parent as a mom, well, what am I saying no to make that possible? If my goal is to have a lifestyle where I can be home with my family and still run a business, well, then I can't keep saying yes to the $100,000 quotes because I'm going to grow beyond where I can have that flexibility. In business and in life, physically, our bodies can do just about anything for 90 days. Just about anything. If you're in a cancer diagnosis, if you're in, grieving a parent, if you're developing a baby in your womb, like our bodies are magical of what we can accomplish. We can do just about anything for 90 days. But the next piece is sustainability, because with that 90-day push, if you're doing it and it's not intentional and it's not getting you to where you want to be, and you're in a push like that, then it becomes not sustainable.
Okay, so how do we make things more sustainable? Let's talk about sustainability a little bit.
So with the 90 days, which is great, if you're doing a push for your business or your home life or whatever to get you where you want to go, that's the intention. Sustainable, when you are not sustainable, is actually easier to catch. So if I had a business owner, they're like, I can't take a Saturday off. I'm running a course. And they're like, I'd love to go, but I can't take the Saturday off. And I was like, so how long has that been happening for? Well, the last year. Oh, you are not sustainable. You are not in a sustainable place. So if you're in a, I can't take a Saturday off, and you are not in a clear goal of how long that's going to take, you are no longer sustainable.
That's really good. When you're talking about sustainability, you can do something for 90 days and the whole Saturdays off. If you're in a position where it has by accident happened to you that you are working Saturdays because you can't catch up, that's a problem, right? And it's completely unsustainable. The only way that it works is if it's an intentional and agreed upon, we work Saturdays, right? Mm-hmm. But if it just happened by accident, what are the dangers associated with that type of unsustainability?
Well, then you're in the body sucking blood from everywhere scenario, because your body can't maintain that forever. 4 to 6 weeks, sure. But if you're the person that's been in that for a long time and can't get out of it, the system's broken. Yeah. We need to look at those non-negotiables. We need to look at what stage of business you're at. We need to look at maybe you've grown too quickly because things are actually doing really well. And in growing too quickly, now you just have been slammed for so long, you think it's normal. Mm-hmm. And we actually need to carve out a season of rest so that you can give back again. most people end up working Saturdays because they don't have a system that's working.
Right.
And if you're the captain of the ship, I'm sure Bruce has said this before, but we often get in with our clients where they're the captain of the ship. The ship is in the middle of a storm and their crewmates are bringing them food and water and telling them to sleep and, we'll take over, we can do this. And they're like, no, I'm fine. I got this. If I leave the helm, we're going to crash, right? And so they hold on and hold on and hold on. And they're in this storm being blown over and trying to get where they need to be. And they're just being crashed by the storm. And it's all because we're not taking care of the captain of the ship. So if you are that person that is in the middle of the storm and won't let go, if you don't have a plan out, like a captain of the ship is immediately going, how do I get out of the storm? So if I'm going to weather it, I have a plan. I know what's happening. I know where it's going, and I'm aiming myself out of this storm. If you don't have that kind of plan, we need to get you a plan.
Yeah. One of the things that came to my mind regarding the past discussions we've had about business proofing your marriage, I think one of the areas where the blood and energy is sucked out of because your life is unsustainable, the business is unsustainable, or what you're doing is unsustainable, it really affects the most vital and important part of your life is the relationship with your wife, spouse, significant other. And let's talk about that a little bit, because I think really, dialing that in is, for most entrepreneurs, like some people, they're young, ambitious. They just want to make as much money as possible and, say I'm the king of the world. That's one type of person, one type of personality. But the majority of people that I know are business owners, they want a better life for themselves, for their family, and for the future, right? And for their employees, right? So let's talk about the marriage relationship or the partnership relationship as we were talking about the business proofing your marriage. One of the things that some people might say is the spouse is like, he's home, but he's not really home. Let's talk a little bit about that. And, that's a warning sign. How do we prevent that?
It's a great question. I think it can come from different ways. So in my circumstance, my husband really cared about our family. Like, he started the business because he was tired of getting laid off and the unpredictability in the trades. And it just was not a good scenario in the culture that Alberta has for blue collar. He wanted something more predictable. He wanted to be able to be home with our kids and raise them. And he really, really cared about the environment we're creating for our kids. When he wasn't home mentally, is because he was really worried. Like, how do I create this for them? Can't think outside the box, doesn't know what he doesn't know. He's a tradesman that's really good at what he does, but had never been a business owner, wasn't raised by entrepreneurs like I was, just couldn't think past it and was constantly worried and anxious. And he came home feeling like a failure. And so for him, I think a big turning point was when we did get help and when we hired Bruce. He did things different back then around business building, but the result was we had somebody that understood what we were going through, understood the non-negotiables in the business, and could kind of see around the corner to be able to get us there. Now, it was hard because choosing the right person is difficult. There's a lot of consultants and coaches that don't get you results and can't help you execute and don't get you to the end goal. And so there's a gun shyness about, I'm going to spend how much money to do what, and maybe not get anywhere in my business and be in the same spot and be worse off. And that's reasonable and realistic. So choosing the right person really matters. But I think for me and my scenario, it was because he cared so much that he wasn't present. And so once we got alignment and once there was some additional support for somebody that actually knew what they were doing, that started to shift. And so we were aligned and we had the same goal and we had intentions, but they weren't around the right activities in the business to actually get us where we wanted to be. So we needed outside help. Now there's another type of business. There's another type of person in marriage where they just have no clue. The business owner comes home, has no idea what the wife has been facing at home. Running a house with toddlers and all of the activities and healthy food and play dates and swimming lessons and cleaning the house and all of those things. It's like running a business. It truly is. It's like running a business. And so your spouse is the leader of your business at home. And if you don't actually have perspective of what they're experiencing, so as the spouse at home, having done both sides, when my spouse came home and like, you don't understand what I went through today. And I was like, dude, you have no clue. I think what would be a really valuable exercise for most people is if they each followed each other around for a day and clocked every single thing that the other person experiences and writes down. Most people have no clue. So you could have the person that really like wants something different for their family, which was my circumstance. But I have coached so many people, they just don't have any idea of what their spouse is facing. So they come home and they're like, well, I'm really tired and I've experienced this and this is what I went through today. Well, have you asked your spouse what they went through today? Because you might be surprised what they went through. And what you went through might actually not be as bad as what they lived today.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that 100% because we've had the same discussions in our household because you're both going through stuff. You're both having a hard day, right? Because, kids, HR, right? You got HR problems.
Toddlers are the worst coworkers,
right?
They're the worst. They have no emotional intelligence.
No.
They want what they want when they want it. There's
right.
no winning. And HR, the level of HR a mom is required to, and you can't lose your cool.
No.
Because toddlers can smell fear. So can teenagers, by the way. If they can tell that you're off, just the skill set in pushing buttons is just at a whole other level. So parenting is not easy. I actually think sometimes it's easier to build a business than it is to raise kids.
In some aspects. And sometimes, when you're dealing with your employees, it's like you're dealing with toddlers.
Yes.
Right. Don't follow instructions. Don't listen properly. Don't follow the guidelines. They're making a mess, not cleaning it up. All of these things. It's kind of similar.
Yeah. So,
but you can fire the employee. You can't fire your kids. Right?
Wouldn't be nice sometimes to actually just fire them. It would be nice sometimes.
You're fired. Time out.
Yes.
So now you help couples and business partners.
Mm-hmm.
So if they keep having the same fights, how do you help them resolve to move forward?
That's a great question. So I remember a time with my husband and I, we had alignment, we had intentionality, we were sustainable. It was a little bit slammed, but we had talked about all of those pillars in the balance. We decided to do the home show with our electrical company. And so it was a bit of a tight turnaround for when we decided to do it, but it was functional. It's tight, but functional. And I remember this fight we got into about putting together like a flyer, a brochure kind of thing that we could hand out at the home show. And my husband and I are different people. We have different temperaments. We have different behaviors. We have different motivators. But man, did it come out that day when we were trying to figure out the flyers. So I went and created them. I did it quickly. I thought they looked great. They looked professional. What we were saying was lined up with what the company was and who we wanted to be and our intentions. But they were quick. And so they weren't fancy. They weren't, I could have maybe wordsmithed a little bit more, but I thought they looked good for and we had a tight turnaround. So we had to send them to the printer tonight at midnight, right? And he's like, they're not good enough. They're this way and that. I want this word that way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're changing one word in that paragraph that means the same darn thing, but it's not good enough. And so we end up in this this huge fight about the flyers. We didn't end up doing them. They never got printed. They never got printed. And it all came down to who we are as people and how that shows up. So one of the things that we do at workplaces, we do person profile assessments from TTI. And this was hugely enlightening for my husband and I in that moment, because that triggered Bruce to do our assessments after this fight that he was mediating and being like, take the gloves off, guys, right? It's just a flyer. It's not the end of the world. But it created huge problems. And when your spouse is your business partner, you have to sleep next to them. You have to co-parent with them. You can't just walk home and like ditch and like leave them, which is a whole other level. The same thing applies though if you're a business partner. So if there's 2 men, 2 women, it doesn't matter. The same thing applies. You're different people. So learning that bridge between the different people to figure out what your behaviors are and why and how that shows up. So under pressure, I am driven, I'm obstinate, I come across as manipulative, non-communicative, or over-communicative. It can be both, but I'm overpowering and I just want it done my way or the highway. That's how I come across under pressure. It's not at all who I'm intending to be. Not even a little bit. That's not who I want to be. But how people perceive me is super pressuring, not tactful, so direct it's harmful, right? That's how I come across. My husband, because he's the opposite of me, opposites usually attract in marriage, right? So usually your spouse is going to have the absolute opposite side of you. So he is slow moving, he's steady, he is super logical, he thinks through things, everything needs to be in its place. That's because we counteract each other, which is great. But when it comes to the flyers and a deadline, even though we were aligned in what we're trying to accomplish, he was picky. He was a stick in the mud. He wouldn't move forward. I couldn't get direction. And what he was saying was so perfectionist, it felt like it was just harmful to me in the process. So with the assessments, when he realized, oh, that's how you see me under pressure. That's not what I'm trying to be. I'm like, and I'm not trying to be mean and like bull over you. So we could actually see how our temperaments were in writing. It was black and white and with charts. They're pretty colors. But it was very clear how we were different. Underneath it, though, we're motivated by the same things. We had the same goals. We had the same intentions. We were trying to get to the same place. So in business partners, we have a couple of guys that are general contractors that we work with. They're amazing at seeing those differences, and they have a similar temperament. One is more like me, one is more like my husband, and these 2 gentlemen that we work with. But they actually are like, oh, I suck at that, and he's way better. I'm going to actually bend to what he wants because I think he's got a better grasp on it. And so instead of it becoming a battleground between them, the differences, it becomes a bridge for them. And we can actually build that part of each other up of where we're not strong. That's harder to do, I find, in marriage entrepreneur scenarios, because we have a perspective of and a position of how it should be. Most people don't do that well. But when we can stop the battlefield and the fights over our differences and actually go, hey, we understand each other and know where it's coming from, it gets way easier to move forward.
I think what you mentioned there about, knowing the personality profile of either your spouse or your business partner is super important. So you guys know how you work, how you tick, what ticks you off, what excites you. Understanding that probably helps you to avoid the conflicts, or at least understand more of the other person, right? So you can empathize with them or sympathize with them, and you can come up with a framework that's going to work going forward on how you're going to plan, say the next 3 months, 6 months down the road, or plan that next family vacation. You got to understand how to communicate to each other. And if you don't understand their personality or what makes them tick, there is the high propensity for conflict or misunderstanding, right? So when we're talking about business builders, right, what is your approach to a business owner who comes to you completely overwhelmed?
I think the first thing I look at is those non-negotiables. That's the very first thing I look at, because if the system and structure isn't functioning, nothing else you can't even begin to try to heal a marriage or heal a leadership dynamic within the company if the business itself is not sustainable. So we jump into business, we start something because we're passionate about it, and then slowly you like denigrate into just rats on the wheel, right? Where you're just trying to sustain it. You don't want to give up. Like resilience is important, but resilience with a purpose, I think, is even more important. So not just sticking with it because I said I would never give up, but sticking with it, doing the right activity to get you out of it. And so this is where the captain at the wheel needs to have a plan to get out of the storm. Otherwise, you're going to die. Mm-hmm. If the captain's not getting food, if they're not being backed up, if there hasn't been a conversation about it, then if you don't have a plan to get out of it in 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to die at the wheel. Because the ship is going down. That storm is taking you down, and it might be 6 months from now. It might be 6 years from now. I don't know when it's going to happen, but if you don't have a plan to get out of that storm and get it fixed, the ship's going down. And if you're in more than 2 to 4 weeks, if it's going to logistically take you 8 to 10 weeks to get out of it, you better have a really solid conversation with the crew of your ship to go, okay, who's going to feed me when? How am I going to rest when? Because if you don't feed and water yourself as the captain of the ship, you're going to keel over and die. And then you're left floating in the ocean in the middle of the storm. So I think it's communication. I think it's a team working together in a community, whether that's your business team or your home team or both. But it starts with knowing where you're trying to get to, so you're not just circling in this storm, driving in circles in the middle of this storm. There has to be an out somewhere. Mm-hmm. And once you understand the business side of it, for the pieces that are missing, it's very easy to plan. Like, okay, I need automation in this component of the business because it's taking me 10 hours a week to do it. Well, great. Let's make a plan to implement that. Well, it's going to take me an extra 10 hours a week for the next 6 weeks in order to implement something new while I'm trying to maintain yes, but then you're out of it. So sometimes there's a push to do something, to integrate something in order to get your time back. Sometimes you have to do those things, but that's where the alignment comes in and the intentionality. Sometimes you have to do that. But if it's not planned and it's not intentional and you're just getting beat up by the storm, you're not getting out of that. And you need help. You need somebody to step in. You need a coach or a mentor that knows where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish. You need somebody that understands business, that can actually go, no, I understand this map. We actually have to go this way in order to get out of the storm. Otherwise, we're going to be caught in this loop.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question. So you and Bruce call yourselves business builders. Mm-hmm. How is that different from a consultant?
Well, in my experience, we were talking about this earlier too. Consultants, number one, charge a lot. Number two, they typically give you a plan, like a binder or something that's a plan of like, this is where you want to go. Great. How do I get there? This is like the map of where you want to be once you've exited the storm. This is your org chart. This is your consistent, like these are your structures that need to be in place. Great. Now what? Which step do I take first? How can I employ that if I don't have the time now? How do I get from where I am today to that plan over there? So consultants typically don't help you get from point A to point B. They tell you what you need to do, or they have a plan and a structure. Typically, they don't know how to get you there. And then the flip side of that is the coach that can help you work through the mental game and the things of why you don't execute and what's in your way internally, but they don't usually have the strategy or the plan in order to do that. So business builders, the reason why we call ourselves something different is because we do it differently. We are business builders because we do coaching and consulting together. So anytime you're looking for somebody, even if it's not us, you need to look for somebody that can help you execute. So maybe yours is the mental game and you have a structure that works, but the mental game of what keeps you from doing it, well, then maybe a coach might be sufficient for you. If you don't have any idea what your non-negotiables are and you don't know where you need to get to, You need somebody that has the strategic and consulting experience. But if you're also not executing well, you need somebody that's going to help you figure that out too. So business builders, we do both. We help coach, consult, we help execute. And if somebody's really blocked, we help dig in and do it for them. We stick with you until it's working.
All right, let's bring it home. So if somebody is in that position, they're in a storm, they don't know how to get out of it, and they need some guidance, some direction, and they need the help of a business builder, what should they do?
You can come to our website at the number 4workplaces.com. That's the number 4workplaces.com. We have a form there you can fill out. We do a free 90-minute session to help dig into what it is you need, what those non-negotiables are, start to have an idea of a plan, and figure out what it is you need. And maybe it's not us. We're not afraid to say it's not us if it's not us. Maybe you need marketing. Maybe you need, accounting, that job costing. There's a lot of different things. Maybe it's not us. But we want to help you figure out what it is that you need and make sure that you're going to get where you want to be so that you can have the life that you want, so you can meet your needs, so that you can have the relationship at home, so you can spend time with your family and not be in the storm all of the time.
Thanks so much, Jen. This has been a really great podcast, and I think people will get a lot out of it. Again, if you are in need of some help, need to navigate and weather the storm, go to 4workplaces.com and talk to Jen or Bruce and set up a 90-minute business building strategy session. See you on the next video.